right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. You've got me, Quentin. I will be your host for this lovely Tuesday night here at 8 o'clock at Kansas City time with my friend, the professor himself, Caleb. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Quinn. How are you doing, my friend?
Fantastic.
That's great to hear, man. That's great
Chiefs
to hear.
News to talk about. We're going to talk about the Chris Jones contract. That's the biggest news to happen in Chiefs Kingdom as of late. I've got a take on Patrick Mahomes, and let's not hit the panic button just yet, guys. Let's take a chill pill. Then we're going to get into some of the stuff that happened over the weekend. We're going to talk a little Jets and what happened last night. We're going to hit some of the other big important games in the AFC and some of the other contenders. So let's just hop right into it. But we'll start off with a little Chiefs. Caleb, Chris Jones signed a contract. It looks like what just happened was they signed a one-year deal. They added some incentives onto it so he can make some money. To me, in my opinion, it looks like they just added some money onto it to sort of wave away the fines that he had accrued, to sort of like a good faith negotiation of like, hey, let's just get this over with. All right. We're not gonna hold this against you. Just come on back and play. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think ultimately this was going to have to happen. And we see with the first contracts that after rookies try to get the first big contract, what we're going to see over time is that fines can be waived. JP will be here Thursday, guys. He's in the process of moving. What we end up seeing, though, with this contract, it's just one of those things that eventually would have to happen. Chris Jones' value was just going to diminish. The defense line looked pretty good without him. Just being honest with you, defense line looked pretty good without him. And he realized, I'm just going to have to ball out this season. This is a basically huge incentive base, meaning that if he goes out and gets 15 sacks and puts up some crazy numbers this season, he will get paid by someone. It may not be the Chiefs, but it's be by someone else. I do believe personally he's saying he wants to be here, but if a team were to offer him, he's going to leave because the big thing is this, he's already won 2 Super Bowls. It would not be surprising if he leaves, and this is just kind of a one-year prove-it deal with the incentives to say, if you can reach these different things, it's going to help not only the Chiefs do good, but it's also going to help your value when you end up basically going into the offseason. So I think that's basically what it's for.
Yeah, I think if you were hoping that Jones stays here long-term, I think this one-year contract kind of seals it up. I don't think Chris Jones comes back. I think that's unfortunate for Kansas City, but it gives them now time to sort of prepare for life after Chris Jones. Man, this lasted so much longer than anybody hoped, predicted, but I'm happy it's over, right? I'm happy that this will be the last time we talk a Chris Jones contract until after the Chiefs are doing their Super Bowl.
That is true. That is very true.
So I'm happy we can just move on from that, and we can all just pay attention to the football on the field and not worrying about stuff off the field.
I agree with you there, and what we're going to see ultimately at the end of the day, this is going to be a huge move for the Chiefs. It brings more bolster to the defense. They already did pretty good. I expect Chris Jones to do nothing but go out there and ball out this season because his contract year is undefeated, and this is basically what this is, a one-year prove-it deal contract.
100%. Okay. We'll move on to our next topic. I have a hot take on Patrick Mahomes. You ready for this?
Okay, go ahead.
You sitting down?
I'm ready.
Patrick Mahomes is pissed off, and he is going to come out. We've seen one-legged Mahomes. We've seen one ankle Mahomes. Okay, we've seen him throw with his left hand, and we've seen
hand
petty
Mahomes too. Hand was hurt one time.
We've seen petty Mahomes counting off with his fingers up in Chicago. We have not seen a pissed off Mahomes yet. Okay, we have not seen an angry Patrick Mahomes play, and I think we're going to see that on Sunday against the Jaguars. Seeing his press conference and seeing the way that he was just so down, seeing the way he was acting on the field, hands on his helmet, I just think that he's going to come out and he's going to have a fire in his belly. Going to have a fire. And he's just going to be ready to play on Sunday. He's going to light it up. And as long as the wide receivers will catch the damn ball, which they will, I think that the Chiefs are going to come out and just blow out the Jaguars.
Wow, that's bold. Well, I expect the scorched earth policy, leaving no one and nothing behind. Mahomes is, I bet he is, pissed off and irritated. We're talking about one day after the Chiefs lost, not even 24 hours, 12 hours later. All these individuals like ESPN, FanSided, Fox Sports were saying, "Oh, is a dynasty over?" I'm gonna tell you one thing, Quinn. We were talking about this off the show. One thing I remember specifically that ended up happening was this: the Chiefs went into Foxborough 2017. Alex Smith's last season. Alex Smith was scorched earth. Kareem Hunt went and had a crazy day, and the Chiefs ended up beating the Patriots on their Super Bowl banner night, like 42 or 44 to like say 23, something like that. Since they end up beating them, the Patriots were talked about for that game that day after. Oh, they're not good. They're not going to do anything. And they came back and won the Super Bowl. Experience proves stuff. I knew this was going to be a tough game. Every game from here on out is going to be another team's Super Bowl. The Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders are going to have 2 Super Bowls with us. So it's going to be a huge, huge, huge fight every single way, every single game. So I expect a lot of stuff to happen. It's going to be very interesting, very, very powerful moving through.
I really do think that I don't want to just sound like I'm saying something hyperbolic here. I don't want it to sound like that I'm just coming out here to throw some fire out there, but I do think this is the first time that I really think in the Mahomes era that the team just around him let him down. You know,
Yep.
I think there are other losses we can turn towards and we can say, man, you know, X is the reason, right? A couple years ago in the AFC Championship game, the reason they lost that game was because Mahomes had the worst half of his career.
Yep.
The reason Kansas City lost that shootout game against the Rams on that Monday Night Football game was because the Rams defense just made better plays, right? I mean, there are certain games when Patrick Mahomes loses, not that it happens very much, that you can just say this one play, ball bounced in this one direction, that's what happens. I think this is the first time where Mahomes came out and played and the rest of the team seriously just let him down. So
I mean,
I think Mahomes just comes out man on a mission.
And he's putting the ball right on the money. I mean, there has to be a point where it's kind of like, dang, I'm doing all this. And I'm going to bring this up too, Quentin, because not many people want to talk about this. Everybody wanted to run away. Josh Allen had a terrible game. 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, completely choked that game away against a team that didn't have Aaron Rodgers. Let me remind you, Quinn, I'm going to raise that bar even higher and kick down the floor and go to another level. Did you see what Joe Burrow did this weekend? That man got benched in the fourth quarter
City, dude.
after getting all that money to upstage Mahomes. Well, the only thing that he upstaged was how terrible he played. Look, Mahomes had a very good game. He only had 1 interception. We can argue that's not even his fault. Everyone else who are leaders stunk it up or got hurt. I'm be honest with you. You're stunk it up or got hurt. So everyone can miss me with all that. Well, Mahomes is not that good. I don't want to hear it because we lost by 1 point and almost won. Both y'all teams struggled when you should have won those games. And especially Joe Burrow, who I'm talking to right now, and all the fans over in Cleveland Cincinnati, who really love that Skyline chili. You guys are going to have a trouble time because Orlando Brown did you no favors. And may I say this as well, Myles Garrett made you guys look silly. So Orlando Brown, have fun.
Yeah, I'll just say this. Kansas City's offense scored more than the Bengals offense. So, you know, my last Chiefs topic of the day before we move into the rest of the NFL. Let's not hit the panic button, guys.
It's one game.
I saw people all week, the analytics of people that were dropping Sky Moore on their fantasy teams, the people dropping Kadarius Toney on their fantasy teams, the amount of questions I got from different people, just like, what the hell just happened? What did I watch? What do you think? And I'm just like, guys, that is a freak game, okay? This is not something that we're going to see ever again. This was like you're rolling the dice and you rolled all 6s, okay? And it was just a bad game. So this is not something that is going to happen over and over again. This is not a sign of what's to come, okay? You lost your number one wide receiver, your number one weapon, 48 hours before the game. And not only 48 hours, you lost Travis Kelce on the last play in practice.
Yes, that's how bad it was.
They were doing their red zone stuff, which means that is what they do very last before they break to go away. And that happened on Tuesday. On Wednesdays, they don't do anything. What's up, Chiefs Live? They don't do anything in terms of like actual on-field stuff. So he literally hurt himself on the last play in practice. There are two options here, right? Let's say Travis Kelce doesn't play. Okay. At least this time, you have 10 days. You have 10 days to plan without Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Okay. I believe that Travis Kelce will be back on Sunday.
I believe so.
Which means even if you've got 80% of Travis Kelce, you'll be fine. The Jags defense is not that good.
And one thing I'll say this to Quentin, I know it sucks that the Chiefs did not have Kelce, but it's smart to get the 3 extra days of rest in. This is one game.
100%.
It's an NFC game, so it really doesn't mean anything in the day. The Chiefs are technically, if you want to look at it, 0-0. If you want to look at it from that standpoint, it's the AFC. These NFC games are more kind of fluff to see kind of how we side against these other teams. So again, I'm not worried. When I was watching different things happening, like, okay, the Chiefs are going to make the run in the second quarter. They did. The defense played very well. And with the additions of Chris Jones and Kelce come back, the Chiefs are going to be fine. When I was actually want to say one thing JP wanted me to say is that he was watching all NFL 22. And he said it looked like the wide receivers did not know how to run the routes. So I guarantee you, Mahomes got on them. And Andy most definitely got on them to make sure they know what they're doing. Because it's a team they're going to be playing against that can do some stuff. So it's going to come down to is, can they execute? The Jaguars aren't a bad team, but they have a pretty decent defense. And I think the Chiefs and Jaguars could be going back and forth for a while.
Yeah, really the only thing that I saw that was actually concerning was that the one guy that was able to get serious separation was Kadarius Toney. Sky Moore really didn't get a ton of separation, and that's concerning to me. But other than that, there wasn't a ton from that offense that I was just watching, and I was like, God, that was horrible. So the Chiefs are going to be fine. Somebody else is going to step up. I believe it's just difficult that week one. You know, this has to happen multiple times for me to be able to say, man, that sucked. That was bad. We need to do something. Okay?
Exactly. You're not wrong there.
Don't send a first-round pick to the Buccaneers to trade for Mike Evans. Okay?
Hey, not a first, a third, or a fourth. I'm just saying, Quentin. I'm just saying. It would help. I'm just saying.
Okay, you got any other Chiefs things that you want to talk about?
Nah, I'm pretty good all there.
All right, let's move into the rest of the NFL. I've got a list here that I made, and I'm just going to roll through it. I'll give you my thoughts. I'll jump to you. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat. So let's get going. Let's just start off with the biggest news of the day, and to be quite frank with you, of the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, torn Achilles, played 5 snaps. That sucks.
It did.
God, man, the NFL is better when your superstars play, and Aaron Rodgers is a superstar. I know he's 39. I know that he isn't as mobile as he used to be, obviously, but he's still a superstar, and I wanted to see what this Jets offense was going to look like. I have the Dolphins making being the number 1 in that division, but man, it really just sucks. I had them making the playoffs. I have to stick with that because I'm not going to change it. But man, you just take the win out of the sail there. And what's even worse on top of that is this is the third time that we could have had a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers shootout.
I know we got it
taken away from us again.
Yep. You are not wrong. My thoughts on this is kind of basically the same as you. I had Aaron Rodgers my fantasy team. I needed 1 point to win. Luckily, I had Conklin as a tight end, so he got me 1 yard, which got me the point. But besides the point, look, I want to see Rodgers do very well. I thought the Jets were going to do some things. I was kind of interested to see how's McCall Harmon going to do, how these other guys going to work. And unfortunately, what we saw was the Jets fans just are dealing with misery after misery after misery. Now, that was a great game. They may have won that battle, but I think the war could ultimately be lost. They're going to have to bring in some free agent to help them. I think, the quarterback they had was Zach
Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
They brought in Carson Wentz.
Yep. Oh, they brought him in today?
Yes.
Okay. So I do believe that Zach Wilson looked better, but there were still some issues that we saw. This run game looks like they're going to be dominating some teams, but there's a passing league. So it's going to be very interesting to me to see how they're going to try to fix some of these problems. So again, it sucks. It happens. I did not expect that to happen. Like as Philip said, 5 plays, 75 seconds. It's just sad. It's sad because you don't want to see that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're looking for the Chiefs, that is one team that if they do make it to the playoffs, I feel like the Chiefs could basically beat them just by simple manipulation and things like that.
And I will say this, the Jets aren't completely out of this, right? Mm-hmm. They have a star defense. We saw what they were doing. I know, and we'll get to this here. This is our next topic, and what the Bills' offense looked like. It looked bad, but I think at least some of the credit has to go to the Jets' defense and what they were able to do to the Bills. They can ride the back of that defense again. They did last year. That's what they did, and they were almost a playoff team with that defense last year, and it only got better. So if your run game has significantly improved and your offense has better weapons and is a little bit more consistent than it was last year, I still think this Jets offense can be enough to make a playoff push. I just don't think that, they can become a true Super Bowl contender. During the offseason, tons of people were like, man, this is a Super Bowl team. They could win a Super Bowl. I think they've been bumped down to be like, look, this could be a wild card team. And if they get into the wild card, they're not a pushover.
They might, and that's why I think what the Chiefs, I feel like Andy Reid and them will figure, okay, this is how we beat them. It may be close, but I think for a team like the Bills to have to face them again, or maybe a team like the Dolphins, it might be a little bit difficult. So that's kind of how I see that whole situation.
Yeah, this is a team that has turned into, you want to make sure that you put them away because this is a team that can fight back. This is a team that's going to throw a haymaker, and you need to be ready for it.
Exactly.
It's just no longer a heavyweight boxer.
That defense shows that they can play. And yeah, they're not the heavyweight boxers, but they're still that middleman guy that can still do some damage if need be. And I think they know that just because Rodgers isn't there, the season's not over. They can still do some stuff. I do believe that they can take out some teams this year. Yes, they're going to have some issues with the quarterback play, but I think if they can beat the right people, bringing in the right people, it's going to help. Now, you're saying they brought Carson Wentz on a visit, or what was all that?
I saw that they brought him in they brought him in. I don't know if they actually signed him to a deal, but I know they were making calls to bring in a veteran quarterback because they had called like Matt Ryan. Was one of the guys that they called in too. So they're just looking for guys, that veteran guy to bring in because they didn't have another quarterback after that. They have some guy on their practice squad, but he's on your practice squad for a reason. Yep. So they really they're looking to bring in a guy to be a backup. That's what they're looking for.
Now, here's my question. Would you be opposed if they brought in Cam Newton?
Does he fit
he
fit that offense?
I would say yes, because his scramble ability, he can make the plays, and I think with all those weapons, he'll be able to find them. If he were to be on the Jets, and just hear me out, this would be the best team he's ever been on with all these weapons. They're loaded at receiver. They're deep at running back. He may be able to make some plays that people aren't really thinking about. And plus, he won't have to worry about his body being beat up. I do believe if Cam is on that team, they are a considerable threat possibly to the AFC. Yeah, I do believe that.
My concern would just be injuries.
That is true. But they will have to rely on that, though.
I know, but if you have a guy that's a running quarterback, right, he's going to put himself in bad situations to get hurt. And then what are you going to do, right?
But here's the thing, though. If he doesn't have to run that much with all those weapons, they can do jet sweeps, tosses. They can do a lot of different things to mix up. Yeah, he's going to get his little runs in there every once in a while. It's Cam Newton. But I think with his body being pretty well rested for the last year or so, I think if he stepped in with the Jets, he could make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, right, like, there are bad options, but, like, there's no bad options, right? You're looking for a third veteran quarterback on the street to try and fill a role. So if you're talking to these guys, working guys out, and he ends up being your best option, then go for it. If it happens, I'm not going to hate it. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. I wouldn't hate it if they brought him in.
That's fair.
And I would just be worried. A running quarterback. The arm talent, assuming the arm talent is still there, I would just be worried that he would hurt himself, and you're sort of back in a similar situation. Whereas a guy like Carson Wentz, yes, he's also been hurt in his career, but he's the guy that doesn't put himself in similar situations when he runs the ball.
Carson Wentz, I just feel like all the things he has dealt with, I don't think he would work well in the New York market and all these other teams.
Yeah, but he's coming in as a backup, so you hopefully this conversation doesn't mean anything for the
That's
team.
true. I just feel like if you're trying to make the most of your opportunity this year, sign Cam Newton to a team-friendly one-year deal and just roll with it.
Yeah, I'll be
That's
interested
what I
to
would do.
see what Aaron Rodgers does in terms of being the sort of veteran in the room. How
Mhm.
much does he help this team? Does he
Well,
just sort of go into his dark hole again, or does he
mhm.
stand on the sideline and help this team try and move forward?
Well, from what I've seen and what they were saying, Aaron Rodgers wants Zach Wilson to be the successor. So I think he's going to do
Easy to
everything in
say
his
that.
power. I know, and it seems like he's been working with him because I say he's seen a little bit better. But if Aaron Rodgers wants to help this team do well, he can't go do all those crazy things he's been doing. He needs to be a coach and a mentor to Wilson and needs to be there every single game, practice as well. Let's get the most out of him. I don't think he's going to be that person with the Jets to just kind of go away and do his own thing. I do believe he's going to actually try to help Zach Wilson because I do believe there is not only a friendship, but a little bit of respect. He sees a little bit of self in Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson still needs to rein it in. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but I'll tell you this. He shouldn't have been the second overall pick. The Jets were just messing around as usual with these terrible draft picks. I don't know who in the world is their who are their scouts because they're always missing on draft picks. With solid on them, they're doing good. But in the past, it's like, really? We're bringing guys like Christian Hackenberger, one guy from Penn State. They brought in all these other guys who just didn't cut it out. Just weren't good. Brian Geno Smith. This new group knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think they can actually fix this issues. Now, let's say this. They don't fix the issues. The team does really bad. They get a top 10 pick. You kind of wipe your hands with it, and then you hopefully can bring everyone back, and you get maybe another top weapon. So I think there's some things that can happen. So those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, let's move to the other side of the ball from that game. The Bills, man. I think that it's one game, and I had the Bills missing the playoffs, being third in that division, and I think that this really helped my case. Josh Allen looks like he's the quarterback back at North Dakota. He is so reckless with the football. He has just, when it's 3rd and 2, you don't need to throw the ball down the field. Just take the 2 yards. That's something that is these reckless decisions that he's making. And I don't know if it's because Brian Daboll isn't there anymore, so there's no one in the room to be like, hey, how about you don't be stupid?
Yes.
That would be helpful. In his press conference after the game, he specifically brought up the fact that, they were facing 2 people during that game. They were facing the Jets and ourselves. So he talked about how he realizes that he lost the game for them. The Jets were defeated emotionally after Aaron Rodgers went out, and they stuck around. The Bills let him stick around after interceptions and a fumble. So you can't do that in the NFL. There's too much talent on that team, really on most teams, to allow teams to hang around. And I just feel like Josh Allen felt that he needed to get a 10.1 play, and it doesn't exist. Take the yards, move the ball down the field. Let's get it going. You have the momentum. Just play the game. And he was playing like he was down by 14.
He was, and that's concerning too. Because what are you guys gonna do? Are you gonna move any different things? 3 interceptions, a fumble. He just lost the game for him. That hurt that team. There was really nothing they could have done to fix all these issues with the turnovers. I just believe at the end of the day, and I said this on the podcast, and you were there, Quinn, the Bills are going to drop this year. I think what's going to happen is they don't make the playoffs. Their coach gets fired, and they're going to have to figure it out, and Stephon Diggs might leave as well. I just feel like that's what's going to happen this year because they have none of the lessons have been learned, Quentin. We are back to square one. At least with Mahomes and them, they figured it out. But back to square one with the Bills. They went from the AFC Championship game to the divisional round to another divisional round where I don't even know they make the playoffs this year. They're just not looking the best.
I don't have them making the playoffs. I have them finishing 3rd in the division, and the way the Patriots played against the Eagles, maybe that they end up being last in the division. I just don't think that there's enough talent on that team. I think that defense has been overrated for a while. And outside of Stephon Diggs, what do they have on offense? They drafted a really good tight end, but tight ends don't end up playing well until their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th year, a lot like offensive linemen. So I just don't see the spark there anymore. And that was a great example of a Bills team that should have won that game, let the Jets hang around, and you end up losing a divisional game that in a tight AFC and a very tight AFC West might come back and hurt you later in the year.
Exactly.
And it just doesn't look good for the Bills.
And I think the Bills, they're just going to have a bad year. It's just they had the opportunities to do the different things. I mean, they have made some moves that aren't the best. They're just going to struggle at this point.
Yeah.
So,
fortunately,
that's what
Let's
happens.
move to another quarterback that struggled in the AFC, Joe Burrow.
Oh, Joey the Cool.
The Cleveland Browns are smoking a Joe Burrow. That's what happened.
They did. Well,
there's not a lot to say about this game except Joe Burrow looked really, really, really bad. I had them losing this game. The Bengals, just because my justification was for it, is that Joe Burrow missed a ton of time during the offseason. And he's a guy that I think needs that time. We saw last year with his appendicitis, right? He had an appendix removed, and he didn't do any of the offseason programming, the training camp and such, missed preseason games.
His calf was hurting him.
Right, and so that's why he missed this year. And so he didn't get time in the preseason. This is a guy that I feel like needs time to get warmed up, like all quarterbacks. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not insulting Joe Burrow because of that. Joe Burrow is still the second best quarterback in the NFL. But I think that hurt him. And the Bengals recently, I think over the last 4 years, they're like 7-1 against the Browns. It's crazy. This is going to, I don't know if this is something that, carries over. I don't think that all of a sudden Joe Burrow becomes this inept quarterback. It's funny because he threw for like 85 yards and you had Bengals fans tweeting at Chiefs fans talking about how bad Patrick Mahomes looked in their loss. And then Joe Burrow turns around and throws for 85 yards, plays so bad that he gets benched in their season opener. So it's fun for me to watch.
It is. I mean, especially Arnold Brown. You really earn that money letting Myles Garrett get around you like that, but it is what it is.
Turnstile, dude. Turnstile.
Dude, he was going to Worlds of Fun. He was toying with them. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to see with things such as that. Ultimately, the Bengals are probably going to make the playoffs. But again, I think they're going to drop down from last year. They're going to AFC Championship, Super Bowl. So we got Super Bowl, we got AFC Championship game. I think they make it to the wild card or the divisional. I don't see them making past that.
I have a question for you, and I'm going to ask a question for the next couple of games. Does that win say more about the Bengals or Cleveland? So does Cleveland's performance say more about Cleveland or just how bad the Bengals played?
It shows how bad the Bengals is because, again, for the 80th year in a row, they can't get their offensive line figured out. And when you have great pass rushers like Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett, they got theirs. Now, I said the Browns have made some upgrades. I know people aren't friends with Deshaun Watson. Did he look pretty good? And he's only going to warm up and get better. So I think the Browns might be able to scare some people. But I do believe this shows us that the Bengals ain't it. They are not it. I don't know what they're going to do, but there's no way they can pay Chase and Burrow and still keep a competitive team. Someone's going to have to give up some money, and I just don't see that happening.
All right. Okay. Let's move on to our next game. We've got the Giants, who took the beatdown from the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants got smoked by the Cowboys, 40-0. It is the worst beat down the Giants have taken in their history. The Cowboys just looked unstoppable. Their defense, they ended the game with 7 sacks, a pick 6. I mean, it was ugly. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be real with the chat. When it was 26-0 in the towards the end of the second quarter, I turned the game off. I was like, there was no way the Giants are making a comeback from this. They couldn't get anything going. They just looked inept. Saquon Barkley, who is their best weapon on offense, possibly the best player on that team, couldn't get anything going. They just signed Daniel Jones to that huge contract during the offseason, and he couldn't do anything, even though he's known for his ability to move around the pocket and gain some yards with his legs.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't do anything. I mean, it just looked bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you there. They look very, very bad. Philip does bring a great point. John's fans were clowning Tony, and Tony was like, "Don't be quiet now. Y'all struggle." I do believe Tony's going to bounce back, but I do also believe that the Giants were just not prepared. They got smacked in the mouth, hard, and the Cowboys just ran away with their lunch money. That's pretty much what happened. And I don't know what the Giants can do this year. Maybe there's something very huge. The Cowboys' belief system. Now, will they make a playoff run? I don't know, but this is a huge statement win that their team was ready to go. So maybe they do something this year, or will they always have the ups and the downs and they lose in the playoffs in some heartbreaking fashion? We may never know, but we'll figure out in the next 4 to 5 months.
I'm going to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. On Sunday, I have the Cowboys winning the NFC East. I have the Cowboys winning.
Over the Eagles?
I know.
Eagles, Eagles.
I know, but I think, and this was before. This is obviously before the Cowboys smoked them Giants.
Here we go again.
Yeah. I have the Cowboys taking the AFC or the NFC East, and that team just looks really good. I didn't think the defense was gonna come out like that. Micah Parsons is a beast. He's gonna end up being the highest paid defensive player in NFL history next year, and it's not even gonna be close. I mean, he might get close to $40 million. Really,
he might.
Crazy, just how talented he is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Unless you have any final thoughts.
No, I think we're all good there. Let's go and move on.
Oh, the Dolphins and Tua.
Yep. Tua mania.
Man, Tua just coming out from the earth, just from the ocean, if you will. Tyreek Hill just came out in a sprint fest.
He did.
He had over 200 yards. If you had him on your fantasy team, he got almost 50 points in a PPR league. I mean, that was crazy. And it was a great game to watch, just going all back and forth, offense all day. Man, that Dolphins offense is clicking early.
They're gonna be tough this year. I do believe the Chiefs can shut them down, and when they play them later this year at Arrowhead, it's gonna be a big game. But I do believe this as well: the Dolphins are a couple issues away from imploding. I feel like too. There are some issues that could happen, so I do believe that at the end of the day, they could possibly struggle, but they did show us that they have some weapons and they're going to be coming after people. But again, they were in a shootout. So I think Chiefs play against them. It's basically going to be like who has the ball last. So,
look, the NFL, and if you're just a fan of football, the Chiefs-Dolphins game now is even more exciting than what it was. I think some people were a little disappointed in the Miami game because it's like, who cares like that much about Miami? Seeing what the Dolphins are capable of, and then now, just reminding yourself that the Chiefs are going to take on the Dolphins over in Germany and be the only game on television. I think that a lot more people are going to be excited for that. The offense that they're able to put together, they're surrounded by weapons. I think this is what the Dolphins wanted to be like last year throughout the whole season. I do want to say, pump the brakes just a tiny bit, because the Dolphins, I mean, they didn't have 450 yards passing last year, but they did have some explosive games. So this is not something that you're going to be able to repeat all year, but the Dolphins offense coming out looking legit.
They are. And I think we're going to see they're going to be battling some people this year. So if everything works out and Tua doesn't get hurt, they got a good chance to possibly be at the AFC Championship game.
And I think one of the underrated moves of the offseason was they getting Vic Fangio on their offense or their defensive coordinator. I know that the Chargers were able to put a bunch of points up, and we'll get to them here in a second. But, Vic Fangio is one of the better defensive coordinators of recent history in this era, right, of the passing offense. So getting him there to try and limit some of these high-powered offenses. Like I said, I know it didn't really work for the Dolphins on Sunday, but I think that this team might be an all-around really good football team, and it'll just be led by that explosive offense. This might be the fastest offense in the NFL. This might be the
easily.
fastest
It's a track
offense.
race.
This might be the fastest offense that we've seen since the 18 Chiefs, and before that, maybe the greatest show on turf.
Yeah, that's saying something for sure.
Is it really that? I don't think it's a hot take.
No, I think they have a chance. Now, the thing is this. Will they be able to keep up? Will they be able to win games convincingly? Because this was a shootout, basically. So the defense had some plays, but they also kind of were walked over a little bit, too. So I'm wondering, will it come down to their season, whoever has the ball last? And I like Mahomes' chances.
That's true.
But
And
I like his chance. It was 35 seconds on the clock. One timeout. I think we see some good things happen.
And I will say the Chargers were able to run the ball against him too. Austin Eckler, they unfortunately quote unquote for the Chargers, they weren't able to stick to the run game all that much. But when the Chargers ran the ball, they were able to run the ball. So that might be something that gets exploited a little bit later down the road, where the Dolphins don't jump out to a 10-0 lead, to a 13-0 lead, and you get a team that's able to just run the ball. Maybe a team like I don't even know if they face the Ravens this year, but a team like the Ravens, right? That's known for their ability to run the ball. Maybe Cleveland, right, with Nick Chubb. If they go up against a team like Cleveland that has an offensive line that can block and run the ball, does that kind of game turn out differently if the Dolphins aren't able to jump out to a lead, and then the rest of the league just exploits that? So while they're able to have this great game against the Chargers, maybe going up against a team with a better run-stopping defense and a team able to run the ball, maybe that's an opportunity for the NFL to exploit them. But I don't want to take anything away from the Dolphins.
They played a good game. So,
all right, we're down to a couple of games that I want to talk about. Russell Wilson looks better, I guess. I guess.
You're not wrong.
One of the things that I saw that I was like, okay, Russell Wilson, he moved in the pocket. He scrambled. He went to his left. He went to his right. He was able to throw the ball on the run, and he threw the ball over the middle of the field. That's something that he didn't do a ton last year, especially during the beginning of the year, right? When they were really struggling on offense. So it seems like maybe Sean Payton has sort of pulled that back out of his gameplay. But Russell Wilson, they lost to the Raiders again. They lost 16-17 in their season opener last year too. So the Broncos, by no means was this a good game for the Broncos. And to be quite honest with you, it was not a good game for the Raiders either. But it's a divisional game. Raiders are technically number one in the AFC West right now.
For now, we'll wave the flag. For now.
For now.
Coming at you.
But Russell Wilson looks better, I guess, is definitely something to take away from it and something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He looks better-esque. But I also know this, too. The Raiders are nothing great, and the Broncos are nothing great. So both of these teams, I do believe there's still some ways behind the Chiefs, some years there. But I do believe Sean Payton did also help him. Basically said, you need to stop acting like you know everything. You need to go out there and be a teammate. And hopefully what they did was got rid of all the extra stuff he was given. The office, his own personal masseuse, the car. Look, you are a team member. You need to work with your teammates. And I hope they can figure it out. Now, do I think they're going to beat the Chiefs? No. But I did say this. I do believe there could be a chance that they beat the Chiefs this year. Because the Chiefs have been smacking on them since, what was it? December 2015, just been smacking on them, just destroying them. Quentin, 8 years now. I do believe the Chiefs can extend that streak, but I'll say this: if they somehow beat the Chiefs one game, it would not surprise me because they're just that fired up, and Sean Payton's just.
You gotta win eventually.
Yeah, eventually, yes.
It's just like a law of averages,
basically.
I just think that defense looked competent. I'll say that, but I still think the Raiders finish last in the division. I just think at some point this year they just fall apart.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson or Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt, right? He went out during the first drive. Okay. Now he came back in, but he left the game and went to the medical tent on the first drive, the Raiders' first drive. Yeah. At some point, he's missing games and they get a downgraded quarterback. So they go from an average quarterback to a definitely below average quarterback, and the Raiders just fall apart. So I'm still holding on to that. The Broncos, I don't even know what to think. I really
Broncos.
I still think that Russell Wilson is going to be a little bit better than he was last year. I don't think he's that bad. I don't think he's great either. But seeing him move around in the pocket, I guess, should bring you hope. If you're a Broncos fan and somehow you found this podcast, thanks for listening. But
thank you again, Peter.
I'm just gonna call it as I see it. Seeing him moving around the pocket is a positive news if you're a Broncos fan, or you just want to see good football.
Yeah, and I think too, what we're gonna see, the Chiefs are gonna be number 1, the Chargers number 2, and then the Broncos and the Raiders are gonna be fine for 3 or 4. But I would not be surprised if the Broncos or the Raiders becomes the second team. Again, we've seen teams that do really good and they end up just dropping. So stranger things have happened, but I do believe the Chiefs are gonna be at the very top of it.
Yeah, I have the Chargers missing the playoffs. I don't think the Chargers make the playoffs.
Wow. Yep. Okay, that's a bold take there.
Yeah.
Okay there, Quentin.
The next team that played, I do have making the playoffs despite their week 1 performance. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, according to Mike Tomlin, got their teeth kicked in. That is a quote from his press conference. They got smoked by the 49ers. And if JP was here, he would be just flaunting his Brock Purdy love. And because Brock Purdy looked good. I mean, I'm going to stand by what I said, where it's easy to look good in that offense when all you're doing is throwing to the best skill position players in the NFL. But 30-7, it was an impressive win. That really, to me, out of that game, it's the 49ers defense that really showed out. They just came ready to play. I got not a ton to say about this game. It's just that when you have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk.
Yes, and more. They have other weapons that are surprising. It's like, dang, how many more weapons do they need?
Yeah, and it's like, well, of course you're going to look good as long as you're not throwing stupid Josh Allen-like interceptions. So for the 49ers to move the ball down the field, that doesn't surprise me as much. What really surprised me was how Pittsburgh just wasn't able to do anything against that 49ers defense.
Yeah, I think you're right about that also. I think the Steelers, they have the talent. They have the receiver room, but they just couldn't get it figured out, and the 49ers defense was just that good. And I do believe at the end of the day, the Steelers, I thought this year they would be back, but ultimately that's just not what's going to happen. They're just going to struggle. The 49ers are that team. I would not be surprised they have another chance to get into the NFC Championship game, where I think they could face either the Eagles or the Cowboys.
I think it's probably going to come down to those 3 teams. The 49ers just look damn good, and there's not a ton to say about that. Coming out on the gate, they were ready to run into a brick wall. We saw Bosa got his new contract and was ready to go. So 49ers look damn good, and they look like a complete football team. Who'd have thunk it?
Exactly.
Okay, last game that I want to talk about. There's some we're just not going to make it to. Who cares about Seattle? Who cares about Seattle, LA, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Miami, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Tennessee? Don't care about them. Baltimore, Houston. Houston's bad. What else do you want me to say about it? The one game that I want to talk about is the Packers and Chicago. Boy, do I feel vindicated. Vindication.
Okay, cool.
Packers are going to win the NFC North. Jordan Love is not a garbage quarterback like so many people wanted to preemptively just give him the honors of being the bad quarterback for Green Bay. 38-20. Offense was moving around. I know it's the Bears, but so many people wanted to just deem the Bears a good team for some reason. And the Packers come out and they win because they're just a better team.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The Packers are just a better team. I did expect the Bears to do a little bit more, and they just didn't. Again, I believe they need the right coach. They need more of a Dan Campbell-like coach to turn things around in Chicago. The guy they have now, I don't think it's really going to work out. They're going to have some good moments this year, and if we have any guys like DJ Moore or also Justin Fields on your fantasy team, you're going to get the points. But as far as team wins, I don't see them getting many of that this year. I just don't. So,
look, and here's the thing. Uh, the Bears, Justin Fields is an exciting guy to watch. You know, it's like when Lamar Jackson first came into the league, and you're just seeing him just make stuff happen that we hadn't seen since Michael Vick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now to see Justin Fields do it, you just want to glue your eyes to the TV and just watch him just do his thing. It's exciting. It's fun to watch a running quarterback who just breaks guys' ankles.
Mm-hmm.
However, what else is around him? They have a crappy offensive line. Okay, they have one wide receiver that they got who, is good, but there's a reason why the Panthers were okay moving off of him. On the
Mm-hmm.
defensive side of the ball, could you name any defensive player on the Bears that's worthwhile?
No.
No,
Not that
the
I can
Bears
think of.
defense is bad. I just
Mm-hmm.
think that the Bears are still deep into this rebuild. They have a ton of pieces that they need. And to be honest with you, the Packers are way ahead of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is a team that 2 and 3 years ago made the NFC Championship game, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is a good team. I think the Packers have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and they have to be better because you can't get much worse compared to the talent that they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
So the Packers also have an offensive line, and all of that equals if your quarterback is mediocre or better, you're going to beat bad teams. The Bears are a bad team. So go, Pack, go.
Exactly. They're going to probably make the playoffs. They got some weapons. They're going to be in a good spot. So I'm not worried with that at all. I'm not worried about that at all.
They're going to win the North.
Okay. All right.
We'll see.
We will see.
The Vikings will have a really bad defense again, and the Vikings offense is not going to win 8 one-score games in a row.
Oh, that's not happening again.
That's
no,
not happening.
That's too much
We've
luck.
already determined that the Bears are bad, and I just think that the Lions are going to, at some point, they're going to flutter off again. I have them making the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. They're a playoff team. But I think if it comes down to the two teams, if I have the Packers coming in and winning the division when it comes to a tight race, or the Lions, I'm picking the team that for the last 20 years has dominated that division versus the team that hasn't won their division since 1993.
Mm-hmm.
Culture is a big thing. Even if a lot of the players are different, I still think that culture is a big part of it. So I'm going to pick the Packers to win that division over the Lions.
Exactly. I agree with you. I think there's a good chance, and the Packers are they're in a good spot, I believe. I think Jordan Love is the right person to take them where they need to go. So,
I mean, this is a team that has a bunch of pieces around it, and that's why the Packers getting their new young quarterback are going to be more successful than a team like Justin Fields, even though I think you can make an argument that Justin Fields is more talented than a guy like Jordan Love.
Yeah, it's just the weapons and the actual offensive line and things around you. That's the big thing as well, which he needs. And here's another thing I was wondering. Does it come to a point where Justin Fields tries to force a trade? Or are they actually good to the weapons to give him what he needs? Here's the problem
with if you're a quarterback and forcing a trade. If you're a quarterback and not a superstar, right? If you're just an average, above average. Let's just, for sake of argument, let's just say Justin Fields is the 12th best quarterback in the league.
Okay.
Right? Above average, really good, to really good, in certain games.
Mm-hmm.
If he forces a trade to, let's say, Indianapolis, hypothetically, Indianapolis is going to have to give up a ton of draft capital.
That's another thing too, yeah.
Aren't you going to be in the same situation again? Because by that point, you're going to have a new contract, and then the Colts aren't going to have the cap space to build a team around you, and they're not going to have the draft capital for the next 2 years or 3 years to put anything around you. So you're going to be on a bad team anyways. So the best bet for Justin Fields is to stay on the Bears and just hope and trust the organization to be able to put something around you.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I think this year should be telling for him. I hope he figures it out, but I don't know.
The only other option is to run out your rookie contract, run out the franchise tag, run out the second franchise tag, and hit the free agent market.
Yeah, and then again, is his body broken down? Because I feel like he's going to wear himself out too. So,
yeah, and the problem with that is that you're going to lose out on a ton of money. Because if you take those 2 franchise tags, well, if you would have signed a contract after your first one was done, you'd be 2 years into it, which means you'd get another one within a year. because they aren't going to wait for that contract to run out. They're going to sign you to a new one before your contract runs out. So if you want to do that, you're going to miss out on a ton of money. It's why I was so down on the Lamar Jackson contract. Yeah, he got a ton of money. He got a great contract. The problem is he missed out on that kind of contract 2 years ago when he could have got it done. So he missed out on a signing bonus and some other money before that he's never going to get back.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of questions up in the air. So,
all right, you got anything you want to come up? You want to point out? Talk about real quick? We got a few minutes.
I guess is our last topic. I just kind of want to hear. I know we didn't really hear your thoughts, but how do you think? And this is my thoughts here. I just want this to be our last topic. Do you think the Chiefs make a trade by week 8?
For what?
For anything. Do you think they make a trade by week 8?
I think so. I would say that there are two. I still think that there's a chance that a guy like Carlos Dunlap comes back. If they make a trade, it's going to be for a defensive lineman. I still think they need depth there. Look, Chris Jones coming back is a huge thing, but I still think that they need depth along that line. An injury or two is going to occur. And I know Charles Omenihu comes back by week 6 or after week 6, but there needs to be some more depth on this line. So I couldn't tell you a specific player off the top of my head. Maybe that's the article I write for tomorrow.
Okay.
But I don't think it's for like a wide receiver or anything like that. I think it has to be defensive line because if you're looking at it, that's the weak point of the team.
It is.
What about you?
I honestly, defense line would surprise me, but I do believe you could make a trade for a tight end that's out there or a wide receiver, possibly. I think you got to figure out what's life after Kelsey. And I know there are some receivers out there that are going to command some money, but they could help with this team if issues persist through the season, which I don't think they will. I think they'll go away some. I still think could still be some issues. Also, you got to figure out what's life after Kelsey. So is there a tight end that the Chiefs want to try to trade for now and get that's not working out in places, Atlanta? Or are there other guys that are trying to maybe want to make a move to possibly have someone in the future to make a trade? So I think there are a lot of different things that can happen and operate with that.
All right. Way too early draft speculation. The Chiefs are not getting Bowers. Okay.
I tried to tell JP that, but he didn't believe me. I'm like, dude, he's a top 10 pick.
Texas. The Texas tight end. His name is passing me by. Pay attention to the Texas tight end. I think that he might be a guy that'll slide in the draft, and maybe Kansas City can snag him up.
Okay.
So just look for the Texas tight end, and that might be a future Kansas City Chief.
That might be.
So. And I think that's it.
Yep. We will see you guys later Thursday. We will talk more about the Chiefs.
We'll preview the Chiefs-Jaguars game. We will be on after the show, after the Jaguars game, right afterwards. So make sure you tune in then. And peace out.
See you later, guys.